Picture this, a packed MMA arena, thousands screaming, lights cutting through darkness. In the center stands Tyler the Tornado Martinez, undefeated champion, soaking up adoration. But tonight something different will happen. Something that reminds everyone true strength isn't measured by wins and losses, but by battles fought when no one was watching. In the crowd sits a quiet man in his 70s, wearing a faded Vietnam veteran cap. His name is Frank Thompson, and he carries scars deeper than any octagon could witness. What Tyler doesn't know is that 3 rows behind Frank sits a legend whose very name strikes fear into bullies' hearts. By tonight's end, Tyler Martinez will learn that some storms are nothing compared to the quiet thunder of a man dedicated to protecting others. This is what happens when disrespect meets consequence, and karma wears cowboy boots. Henderson Sports Arena buzzed with anticipation. Tyler Martinez had demolished his opponent in round 2, his 23rd consecutive victory. At 28, Tyler embodied everything modern fighting celebrated: young, flashy, undefeated, and convinced of his invincibility. Celebrating with microphone in hand, Tyler's eyes swept the crowd like a predator surveying his kingdom. Fans loved his skill, but Tyler craved attention beyond athletic achievement. He wanted controversy, drama, anything keeping his name trending. 3 rows up sat Frank Thompson, 72-year-old Vietnam veteran who'd saved months for his first MMA event. Frank's deployed grandson was a huge Martinez fan, and watching Tyler fight made Frank feel connected to the young man he desperately missed. Frank wore his Vietnam cap with quiet pride, the same one worn to every important event for 50 years. Chucknorris sat in VIP, supporting a charity event scheduled between fights. At 65, Chuck remained remarkably fit, his presence commanding even in casual clothes. He'd noticed Frank immediately, one warrior recognizing another, and observed how respectfully the elderly veteran watched fights. Tyler wasn't satisfied with just winning. Grabbing the microphone, he started working the audience, but tonight something twisted in his need for attention. "You know what I love about this sport?" Tyler shouted. "It's about real warriors. Not like these old guys who sit around talking about wars from 50 years ago." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Some laughed nervously, but many fell silent, sensing Tyler was entering dangerous territory. Frank felt the words like a physical blow. Around him, other veterans stiffened. This wasn't just personal. It insulted every man and woman who'd served, sacrificed, and returned carrying invisible wounds that would never heal. Chucknorris slowly stood. His jaw tightened imperceptibly, but the signs were unmistakable. Chuck had spent his life respecting those who served, having served himself. He'd built his career on honor, respect, and protecting the defenseless. Tyler, feeding off mixed reactions, doubled down. His eyes found Frank's veteran cap, and something cruel sparked in his expression. "Hey, old man," Tyler shouted, pointing at Frank. "Yeah, you with the hat. You probably spent your war hiding in bunkers while real fighters like me were being born." Stunned silence filled the arena. Even Tyler's loyal fans couldn't believe what they'd heard. Frank felt every eye turned toward him, but he didn't flinch. He'd faced enemy fire in Southeast Asian jungles. He wouldn't be intimidated by a bully with a microphone. Slowly, with dignity earned through lifetime service, Frank stood. His voice carried steady and clear across the silent arena, without amplification. "Son," Frank said, "I didn't fight for respect. I fought so young men like you would have freedom to say foolish things. But that doesn't mean you should—" Tyler's face flushed with embarrassment and anger. Being called son by someone he'd insulted, spoken to with such calm authority, made him feel small in ways he couldn't tolerate. His identity was built on dominance, and this quiet old man was making him look weak before thousands. "Freedom?" Tyler snarled. "What would you know about fighting? You're probably just another fake veteran seeking attention." The poisonous words hung in air. Frank's shoulders sagged, not from shame, but from realizing how far respect had fallen in the world he'd helped protect. That's when Chucknorris began walking toward the octagon. Moving through the crowd, Chuck's mind flashed to his military service. Countless veterans he'd met. Gold Star families who'd lost everything serving their country. He thought of his father, who struggled with alcoholism after World War II, How society failed men who'd given everything for freedom. Chuck built his persona believing strength should protect innocence. That power without honor was just bullying. He'd spent decades making movies celebrating heroes, and here was a real hero being disrespected by someone playing tough for entertainment. Security tried stopping Chuck, but one look made them step aside. This wasn't about breaking rules. This was something deeper. Frank recognized something in Chuck's movement. Not athlete swagger or celebrity posturing, but the purposeful stride of someone who'd made a decision and wouldn't be deterred. Tyler continued playing to crowds, not realizing his world was about to change. Caught in his performance, convinced of invincibility, he didn't notice the energy shift as Chucknorris climbed into the octagon. "That's enough," Chuck said simply, his voice cutting through Tyler's rant like a blade through silk. Tyler spun around, bravado momentarily faltering. Even someone as self-absorbed as Tyler knew exactly who Chucknorris was. But pride and coursing adrenaline wouldn't let him back down. "Oh, great," Tyler forced a laugh. "Another old-timer wants to lecture me? What are you gonna do, karate chop me?" Chuck didn't respond with words. He simply stood balanced and calm, his presence filling the octagon, making Tyler's earlier dominance seem like a child's tantrum. The contrast was stark. Tyler young and muscular but twitchy with nervous energy. Chuck older but radiating quiet confidence from decades of mastery. "You want to know about real fighting?" Chuck's voice remained calm but carried an edge, making the entire arena hold its breath. "Real fighting isn't about beating opponents in controlled environments with rules. It's about standing up for what's right when no one's watching, no crowd cheering, no prize money waiting." Tyler, feeling authority slip away, made the mistake of trying to physically intimidate Chuck. "I'm undefeated, old man. I'll go through you like everyone else." Chuck didn't move, flinch, or blink. "Son, you've spent your life fighting people trying to lose weight to make it fair. I've spent mine learning from people trying to kill me to make it real." What happened next would be debated for years, but everyone agreed. Tyler threw the first punch, and it was the last thrown that night. Chuck moved with fluid precision from 60 years of perfecting his craft. Tyler's punch, fast enough to knock out trained fighters, seemed to move through empty air as Chuck simply wasn't where it aimed. Chuck's response was so economical, so perfectly applied, that Tyler found himself on his back, staring at lights, wondering what happened. Chuck wasn't done. As Tyler tried rising, Chuck's voice filled the arena, not with anger or triumph, but with a teacher's authority delivering necessary lessons. "That man you insulted earned the right to sit anywhere he wants, speak his mind, and be treated with respect. He didn't ask for thanks, doesn't demand special treatment, never used his service to make himself look bigger. That's what real strength looks like." Tyler, still grounded, found himself looking at Frank Thompson, who watched with the same quiet dignity he'd shown throughout. For the first time in adult life, Tyler felt truly small, not because he'd been beaten, but because he suddenly understood the difference between being strong and being a bully. Chuck extended his hand. After hesitation, Tyler took it. As he rose, Chuck's voice was gentle but firm. "You're gifted, son, but gifts are responsibilities, not entitlements. You can build people up or tear them down. Tonight, you chose poorly." The arena remained silent as Chuck walked to Frank Thompson. The men shook hands, a moment connecting warriors from different eras. Then Chuck escorted Frank to the octagon, where the veteran received the standing ovation he'd never asked for, but richly deserved. Tyler never forgot that night's lesson. He began visiting veteran hospitals, speaking at military events, using his platform to honor those who served. His fighting style didn't change, but his character did. Frank returned to quiet life carrying knowledge that people still understood the difference between strength and power, earning versus demanding respect. He never spoke publicly about that night, but family noticed he carried himself taller afterward. The moral isn't about fighting or standing up to bullies. Though both have their place, it's recognizing that in a world obsessed with youth, flashiness, and social media, quiet virtues, honor, service, humility, respect matter more than anything else. Real strength doesn't need to prove itself because it's not about who you can beat, it's about who you choose to protect.